After months of setbacks, Joe Biden is looking to chart a path forward for his passage of his spending agenda. But while the president indicates he's willing to break up the Build Back Better Act, Democrats are not really sure about this. Biden has said at his press conference that he is confident they'll be able to get pieces of big chunks of the Build Back Better Act approved. Biden said they're probably going to have to break it up though. He said his goal is to get as much done as possible. And also, Joe Manchin of West Virginia acknowledged that the previous offer for a $1.8 trillion spending bill which was discussed last fall, is no longer on the table. This means new provisions will be negotiated on in Congress, and according to Manchin, will just be starting from scratch, addressing a wide range of Democratic priorities, from climate change to healthcare. Manchin also said last month that he cannot support the Build Back Better Act. The senator from West Virginia said the country needs to get its finances in order, arguing that inflation must go down first. And prices rose 7% across last year, and that's the fastest rate in 40 years. It was one of the issues that Manchin cited when he said he could not support the spending bill. And waiting for prices to level off, he said he couldn't do it. Officials at the Federal Reserve and other forecasters believe that inflation will remain into the second half of this year, amid ongoing supply chain issues and higher demand. The White House did not give a new targeted price tag for the spending bill or what exactly it could include. But according to Jen 28, the president was not necessarily dictating what the size would look like. Democrats have been using the reconciliation process, meaning they only need 50 votes in the Senate to pass their spending bill. However, if the bill were to be broken up into separate pieces, the provisions not including the reconciliation are going to require 60 votes. So as Democrats look at what could be salvaged from the Build Back Better Act, provisions to combat climate change could be one of the biggest problems. Biden told reporters it is clear we'll be able to get support for the $500 billion plus energy and environment issues that are there. And Joe Biden also acknowledged that he is not sure he can get two major components of his agenda passed. So hopefully President Biden can get this done, everybody, because we all know that stimulus payments must be approved.
To help small businesses and to help Massachusetts families be able to make ends meet. And then that was followed up in the fall with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Plan, which will provide more than $9 billion right here in Massachusetts, basically to revitalize our crumbling infrastructure. That means roads, bridges. It's also got a big chunk of something I worked very hard on, and that is enhancing public transit, moving to electric vehicles, electric buses, school buses, clean and safe drinking water, upgrade our sewage systems, and promote broadband access all across the Commonwealth. So this is just the start of what Congress can do to help working families by boosting our economic recovery and fixing our crumbling infrastructure. So those are good things, but boy, we have a lot more work that we need to be doing. So I wanted to share just a few priorities with you, and then I want to hear directly from you about what we should be working on together and how to continue amplifying and supporting the needs of the Commonwealth. So first, two legislative priorities, what Congress needs to do. I should say three. First one, obviously, is voting rights. Last week, Democrats put voting rights legislation on the floor of the United States Senate. All 50 Republican senators lined up against it. We tried to block their filibuster, and we were 2 votes short. We just couldn't do it. But I want you to understand this. I am not giving up. Our fight to protect voting rights and to defend our democracy is far from over. All American citizens have a fundamental right to vote and to get their vote counted. And neither one side nor the other has the right to keep people from voting or to try to tilt the count in their favor. We need a level playing field on voting. This is what our democracy depends on. The stakes are too high, and so in the days ahead, the weeks, months, I'm going to keep pushing every way I can to strengthen and protect our voting system. So that's the first one. Second, support for our restaurants. This is one we need to do fast. We know that small businesses across Massachusetts are hurting, and I'm fighting to try to get more help. Earlier this week, I sat down with restaurant owners from across the Commonwealth. I heard firsthand about how hard they've been struggling. They've just faced hurdle after hurdle, a pandemic, new variants, cold weather, so that they can't eat outside anymore. And look, our restaurant owners have really gotten creative. They and their staffs have worked so hard and struggled to keep the doors open. And so here's the thing, it's kind of the good news and bad news all at once. The American Rescue Plan, the plan that the Democrats passed last spring, included relief for restaurants, bars, food trucks, and it worked. But we didn't put enough money into it. So basically, only about 1 out of 3 of the restaurants that applied for help actually got the help they need. And that remaining 2 out of 3, they need help and they need it now. So that's why I'm co-sponsoring a bill that basically just refills the Restaurant Revitalization Fund so that the money is there to turn that program back on. We know how to make it work. Turn it back on and give aid to the small restaurants, small businesses that were closed out at the beginning and haven't gotten any help. I also understand this is something that we just can't delay on. We need to get it through, and we need to get it through now. Restaurants are hanging on by their fingernails. They need help now. I want to see this money out the door as soon as possible. And I'm pushing everything I can to move this up in the priorities and get a vote on it on the Senate floor. So that was the second item. Third item I just want to mention is Build Back Better. I'm sure many of you are wondering what's next for Build Back Better. And I'm not going to hide my frustration with where things are. We need to get as much out of that package across the finish line as we possibly can to make a difference in people's lives. We need to extend the child tax credit, which expired this month. We need to keep those payments coming to the 660,000 families right here in Massachusetts who depend on it for groceries and paying bills and diapers and making ends meet. And we must invest in universal child care. I've said it all along, child care is infrastructure. We need roads and bridges for people to be able to get to work. We need to invest in child care so people can go to work. We need to invest in our child care providers, raise their wages so they have a living wage and